We'll go ahead. Great. We'll get started and then send this out. So, welcome everybody to the Southeast District's Best Practice Calls. Today we have Nance Larson and it's Michael Charenson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got it right. Okay, good. Talking about the Voices for Everyone initiative. And I will go ahead and turn it over to you guys, actually, if you are ready to do that.
Sure, sounds good. Mike, you want to share screen?
Share my screen. There she goes, making me do this again. Just testing my my technology ability. There we go. I did it twice today.
All right, very good. Well, thank you all for being here today. I do know it's start of vacation season, so I appreciate everybody's time today and inviting Mike and I to chat a little bit about Voices for Everyone. Anxious to get your feedback and suggestions, so we'll just dive right in. I think some of you may be familiar. We did hint at this launch back at the Leadership Assembly in December. Since then, we've got a task force that's been working to move this forward. The Voices for Everyone program, which is all about inspiring change through action and really building a national conversation about inclusion, civility, and civic engagement. So as we look to develop this program, this stems back about almost 2 years now. Mike and I were serving on the advocacy committee, and we were asked to look at how we could proactively lead into some critical conversations. And so we really took a look at the code as our guide, and we really feel that Voices for Everyone really reflects where we all live and breathe. Public relations is a First Amendment-based profession, and Voices for Everyone really is about serving the public good. It's about moving honest and transparent information forward and supporting civil dialogue with diverse voices. So it really does touch many, many aspects of the code. And that's really where we started our conversation. What the group did is we really looked at where we felt the profession is going. And so we felt that Be Free needed to be a catalyst for creating social change. We really wanted to create a space where we could have a marketplace of ideas, where we could have internally robust discussions about what our members are working on, but also look at how we could take that and move that into a broader public sphere. And it really does all come back to how we can serve the public good. It's all about, our mission is all about harnessing collective expertise. It's about looking at what our chapters are doing, what our independent practitioners are doing to advance the profession, but also how they're addressing some of these critical issues that we know that we're all facing on a daily basis, and really having a place where we could harness that information and collectively share for the benefit of all. So again, this is really about changing behavior. We know as influencers that we have the ability to change the types of conversations that are going on, to help change the tenor of how things are being presented. And so this really is about fostering that meaningful fact-based dialogue. It's really about positioning PRSA as thought leaders in these arenas. And again, going back to the code, building trust and understanding and relationships along the way. So we're looking at doing this in a couple of different ways. First, starting out that we want this to be a place where members can have conversations and really dig into these issues that are impacting each of us, whether it's in our organizations that we serve, the nonprofits that we participate with and support, or our community at large. And so it's really about how we can collect information.
Oh no,
Nance?
Did we lose Nance?
We lost Alaska.
Oh, there we go.
There's Alaska. Alaska's back.
Sorry about that. But it really is about taking that information and creating viable tools that we can put into people's hands they can use on a day-to-day basis. This Voices for Everyone is aligned with PRSA's long-term strategic plan. So again, it's really looking at moving forward where we need to be in the spaces that we need to be influencing. So when we started this conversation, Mike and I were deep in thought about disinformation and the impact that it was having on the society. The board challenged us to move forward a more progressive program to address it. And when we brought it to the advocacy committee, we started talking about not just disinformation, but the conversation started naturally moving into some other areas. And from that, we identified not just the one space, but really 4 spaces that we felt were critical to move forward. They not only foundationally stand on their own as topics that we know are impacting society in a way that we want to change, but they're also all interconnected. And so we came back to the board and said, we would like to move forward, not just one program or one initiative, but 4. And these are the 4 that we felt had not only the most dynamic impact moving forward, but we really felt that each was critical to the other to move it forward in a more positive space. So from disinformation, we added diversity and inclusion, civility, and civic engagement. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike to give you a little overview of how we're addressing one of the initiatives a little more fully, and then we'll talk a little bit about the other 3, and then wrap it up with some Q&A.
Well, thanks, Nance. And you know, Nance touched upon the code of ethics. And at the end of the day, ethics is really about how we choose to interact with one another. And as you know, the bridge builders in society, the people as a connector of people and ideas, you know, I think these issues just touch at the core of what we do. You know, in making sure that those we serve the public and our clients and all of the those we serve feel they have a voice in the marketplace of ideas, that we engage civilly, that we're yielding to other ideas and points of view, that people feel they have they're connected. And then it all takes place in a less toxic, less polluted information environment. Obviously, disinformation is top of mind right now. We're hearing a lot about it, obviously, whether it's in science and healthcare, in politics, in all sorts of our society. Just to clarify too, some of the definitions, disinformation is really false information with the intent to harm. Misinformation is false information, but not created with negative intent. And then malinformation, which is really information based with some reality, which is in many ways the most dangerous, because there's always that hint of truth, which makes it, you know, kind of more dangerous in the long run. So a lot of our work has been based, it's research driven. One of the studies we looked at was the Institute for Public Relations, and their study, and they've done 2 years worth of studies, and they showed multiple years that people are concerned about disinformation. The verifying information is critical. They see some of the top sources of the disinformation is Facebook and other social channels and politicians. And more than 2/3 of Americans view disinformation as a threat to democracy, and I would argue our economy as well. So what was our strategy? And let me just start with a couple of things that what we don't want to be is we want to be nonpartisan. We want to respect the First Amendment. We didn't want to be the thought police. We wanted a strategy that would help our society and help to be, you know, and unfortunately, I think PR has somewhat earned and somewhat been dubbed with the polluters of the information environment. We wanted to use this as an opportunity to address our role as the keepers of the information environment and how we serve the greater good. So the approach we're taking is that we believe that consumers of news and information are best served by building cognitive muscles in emotional skepticism and training people to withstand the onslaught of negative and false information, not negative, but false information. And while fact-checking and debunking serve a critical role and important, their effect is somewhat limited, given one, because of just the volume of it. And honestly, that was a trap we got into when we first started this effort. We were kind of waving our finger and taking the code of ethics and saying, don't say that, don't do that. And it became whack-a-mole of just trying to stop the constant flow. And 2, studies show that it's really very, very difficult to unring the bell. That once people consume or see a piece of some disinformation, it's very difficult to unring it. What we're focusing on is what's the behavioral sciences and people in the PR space have talked about pre-bunking and attitude inoculation, which in multiple studies have shown effective at building immunity and reducing susceptibility to disinformation. And to be clear, what our goal is to flatten the curve, to slow the spread. You hear this with the vaccine, is to make every person a dead end for the virus, and it doesn't go to the next person. That's the same thing with what we want this to be for information. So we really want to flatten the curve. We realize we're not going to, stop the most fervent. We're not going to stop the bad actors, foreign and domestic. What we want to do is really help those who want to make informed decisions, the moderate voices, just make better choices online. And data has shown that we can be effective at slowing spread. So what are the tactics we're recommending? And they're really super simple. And so first and foremost is a nudge or a pause. And numerous studies have shown that if we can, as PR professionals and as citizens, simply encourage people to pause before they share, to think before you share, we can slow spread. And there's been numerous studies that show this. And it's so simple, and it's simple as looking both ways before you cross the road. That we really want to put a lot of our attention, and we're asking all of you to help partner with us and spread the word, encouraging people to spread, to take a pause before they share information. And how many times, by the way, have we seen this with our own clients? We're building, have a client that's building some kind of new, development in town, or putting forth a new initiative, and information spreads like wildfire, and people just keep spreading it because they didn't check to verify whether it was true or not. And if we can get people just to slow down, we know we can slow spread. The other is inoculation. And this is really interesting theory. It's from the 1960s, and over the years, it's become, it's been proven in numerous studies and in real world situations. But basically, inoculation theory is very similar to what we're talking about with the vaccines today. That if we can expose our minds to just a small dose of either the falsehood or the deceptive tactic, that we can build a mental immunity to it, that we will have seen it and we can say, oh yeah, that's false. Oh yeah, they're trying to deceive me. And you see this all the time. And I'm a big fan of Law and Order, where the lawyer gets up there and says, oh, the prosecutor is going to say that my client did X, Y, and Z. Here's why they're wrong. And basically, they're pre-bunking. They're exposing you to a small dose of the falsehood and then pre-bunking you. And by the way, this is not only a tactic we can use in society overall, but it's also a tactic we can use with our own clients. And preparing people. If we know, for example, that we have a client that we're launching a major initiatives and we're going to be attacked in certain areas, we can pre-bunk. We can build immunity to attack. And so, but we're using this in a broad spectrum vaccine. And what we're using are gamification. We have several games on the site that help people build immunity to disinformation. And there's one, Go Viral. There's Harmony Square. There's Spot the Troll, and a few others that have proven in numerous studies in real world situation to slow the spread and make people more likely to identify and disinformation. In fact, there was a study out of Cambridge that showed encouraging people to pause and to play one particular game, Go Viral, which is on our site, slowed the spread of disinformation related to COVID-19. Simply encouraging people to pause and play a game slowed the spread of disinformation. I mean, it is so simple, but it is really easy stuff. And the last is media literacy. And we have some great resources. Numerous studies have shown that if people take a media literacy course, they're about 80% more likely to be able to identify misinformation. There's several great resources on there, free courses. We encourage everyone to take them and share them. One that I like is a text-based from First Draft that for every day for 14 days sends you a little text message with a little module. And it's really effective. It really does help you build that immunity. So what we really want to do is, not only do we want PR professionals to be more immune, but we want the communities we serve, our coworkers, our employees. Let's face it, if people don't trust the channels of communication or the sources of communication, our job becomes a lot more difficult. So if we can help consumers of news, of information, weed through the bad stuff and be able to consume the good stuff, and I'm using quotes, we will be more effective as communicators. So this serves our role, not only in our obligation to serve the public good, but as professional communicators with an obligation and duty to our client. We support fact checking, and we'll continue to support that. And also we'll be issuing media statements and, speaking out when there are bad actors. And, we see obviously some areas of concern. And I do want to make the point that, we don't have clean hands as a PR profession. There are PR firms that are involved in the spread of disinformation. We have to work hard to keep our side of the street clean and make sure that we live up to the standards in our code of ethics. So it's really important that we practice what we preach, and we try to keep our side of the street clean. So what do I ask all of you is really just become disinformation experts and expand your knowledge, to really develop your cognitive muscles and encourage others to do the same. And for your chapters, reach out to your local library associations, your school associations, your local law enforcement, your government agencies. Encourage them to spread these tools and make them available online. And by the way, what a great way to build your membership. By once you build an affiliation with a local library association, well, is your PR person a member of PRSA? You reach out to the local boards of education. Hey, do you have anybody who's a member of PRSA? It's a great way and a great program for your chapters, and really just become advocates for these point of view. And there's a lot of thought leadership content up there. Feel free to localize, to customize, and share at your own level as well. Tons of social media assets. We encourage all of you to share them, and encourage all of your members to share these assets. And again, it sounds so simple, but a simple pause will slow the spread of disinformation. And we have a great checklist that you could share with your members, and encourage everybody to do the same. So really, the very actionable, simple tools. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nance, who'll go through some of the other initiatives.
Thanks, Mike. So I think Mike just demonstrated the depth of information that we have on just one initiative. I'm not going to go through quite as much on the other three, but we are building along those same lines, each of these initiatives out at the same level. The diversity and inclusion piece is actually not only as part of Voices for Everyone, but it is also a separate committee as part of the strategic plan. They have done a phenomenal job of moving forward a very robust toolkit, making sure that this is a conversation that each of us can effectively move forward. So I do encourage you to take a look at what they've pulled together. One example is how you can integrate inclusive language into your organization, your community, or your nonprofits that you support. So there's a wealth of materials not only available for you to immediately use and have impact, but again, this is part of showing the importance of having diverse dialogue. The studies are showing over and over and over that organizations, groups that have diverse conversations, diverse membership, are higher performers. They bring forward a completely different perspective that is not just inclusive, but is a way to improve and move forward more collectively, and really improve the effectiveness of the organization. So encourage each of you to go take a look at what's in the diversity packet. On the civility side of things, really this is, civility is a lost art. There was a time where you could bring together different points of view and have really robust conversations, even vigorous on both sides, and come to the middle, but do it in a way that was civil. And that's something that we really have lost sight of. And that's such an important part as communicators, our ability to bring opposing viewpoints together, to bring differing sides together, and be that influencer that helps those dialogues improve understanding and build that trust. So civility is a really collective piece that is becoming more and more important in the work that we're doing. One of the things that we're really excited about as we're launching all of these initiatives is that the Bateman competition this year focused on civility. And the creative pieces that have come forward with the schools that have participated are really incredible and really exciting. It's the first time that PRSA has actually been the client. So you'll be seeing us bring forward the different perspectives that have presented, not only by the winning teams, but really everybody that participated stepped up and brought something really interesting to the conversation. So we're really excited to be able to showcase what our future leaders in the industry are bringing forward as part of this particular initiative and their view of its importance as we move forward. So look for more of that on the site in the next 30 to 45 days. And then the last is the civic engagement initiative. Sometimes people look at this and think, well, this is politics. This is being engaged in my government, but it really is much, much beyond that. Civic engagement really is about how you engage with all of your communities, whether that be on the government side, a nonprofit side, anything in your community that helps you serve the public good, which again goes right back to our code of ethics. We have an opportunity as communicators to bring an expertise to the table that may not be accessible to all facets that you touch. And so again, our ability to come into those arenas and offer that expertise at a level that may not be available to them is really something that's unique to our profession. And then lastly, this really is about inspiring change. We are actually asking everyone to act, amplify, convene, and take action on this initiative in different ways, whether it's through your chapter, through your organization where you work, anywhere in your community where you might be able to bring a beneficial point of view or help your community past an issue by leveraging the materials that are available within Voices for Everyone. Really help us position strategically to be change agents. So again, just to kind of recap, it really is a catalyst for thought leadership for PRSA. It's how we position our society as conveners of conversation. That is what we do. And our ability as influencers to inspire change and underscore the role that we bring to the table and how we advance the public good. So with that, I know you're all familiar with this value statement, but we like to include it just to remind that this is what it boils down to, our obligation to serve the public interest and serve the public good. So with that, we'll open it up for questions.
You know, just before we go to questions, one thing I do want to add, and I, you know, listen, Nance and I have been practicing for many years, and we both, you know, obviously been active in PRSA, and you know, we often in PR, our first instinct is when there's an issue is we want to push more information through a pipe. You know, we want to issue a statement. We want to, but what this is all about really is changing the environment, changing the information environment to make the environment more fertile for our messaging, and also to make it less hostile and to clear the smog so our messages don't get lost in the clutter. So this is more of a game of chess, a game of mind chess, where we can change the information environment, so our messages resonate, that we can cut through the clutter. It is much more a strategic move. It's just, and by the way, we are serving the public good, but we really, you know, let's not discount the fact we're serving our clients. We're serving those, you know, who pay our bills. And I think it's our obligation too, as counselors, to explain the valuable role we provide in shaping the environment to make it more conducive, you know, to our messaging, to our bridge building, to all the things we aspire to do. So, you know, it does go well beyond just a good deed. It has a bottom line implication as well. So.
Well, and I would just add to that the collective brain trust that we have within our membership is really second to none. There is incredible work being done across all of our sections, districts, members, and this is an opportunity for us to collaborate, to look at what's happening out there, to look at what people are doing, share information. You know, again, taking the pieces that we know that are out there and the individuals or the chapters that are doing some really phenomenal work, and putting that in a place where we can all share and benefit.
So I guess we'll take any questions or anybody have any thoughts. And by the way, we love feedback. This is all stuff for you. So let us know your feedback.
Nance or Mike, do you know of chapters who have had programs on this topic? What are they actually doing to present this information?
So I'll give you a couple examples. The Minnesota chapter has done an incredible civility presentation. This was put together just after, I think it was mid-January. They put together a very robust panel. They've got handouts, they've got a how-to. What we're doing literally is packaging some plug and play programs where you could either reach out to that chapter and ask them to present, or they kind of have a floor plan that they're giving everybody, a playbook, if you will, of how you can do it. These are who we had on the panel. This is how we put it together. These are the materials that we handed out. These are the challenges that we were addressing. So that's one chapter that's I know is doing something really interesting on civility. The University of Alaska is working on a social media disinformation campaign. They have been approached by Yale University to partner. And this is actually a program in school, but they have partnered with the State of Alaska Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the American Medical Association. They've created a rapid response team to respond to misinformation about vaccines online, and just an incredible program that is being put together for our students to actually monitor the entry point of the program, but then they've partnered with experts to expand it. So that program is going to be something that we hope will be initiated across PRSA moving forward because of the impact that they're seeing. But Joy Mapaye there is leading that effort. We have the chapter in Nevada who is also doing a piece on civic engagement and civility. So we're trying to collect all these pieces and put them in a space so that you can go to either each initiative and see what's being done, or certainly reach out to Mike or myself. But that's really the idea here, is to provide resources for people to see what's being done out there. Where can we expand on what's happening or that's already been created, or how can we dovetail and make that work for our chapter as well? But there's dozens of examples that we're going to be showcasing on the site.
And obviously D&I, PRSA has been very active, and I think there's a lot of great examples for D&I and more, and the Diverse Voices program, and a lot of them, if you go to the site now, they're already up there and it can be replicated. And then on the disinformation front, San Diego did some really great stuff. The chapter there did a multi-part series.
Was that Case Weitzer, or was it the chapter? Was that Case Weitzer, or?
It was the chapter, but Kay did, through the chapter.
Okay.
The public affairs section just did a great session on disinformation. So it's just, it's a hot topic right now, and people are always looking for ways to deal with it. So
great.
And really what we're trying to do with those programs is add to, here's what you can do with this. That component of, it's not just that here's the program, but here's some different avenues that can be pursued to make this work for you. We've also, we neglected to mention, we've developed a playbook that's kind of the high level view for each initiative of the things that you can do immediately as a chapter or as an individual practitioner. And so that's actually just about to post to the site, so we'll be distributing that. But that's a great way to just get a kind of a quick immersion into any of the 4 initiatives, or hopefully all of them. It gives you that high level view of, here's our playbook of the things that you can do to actually impact change in these initiatives.
Great, thank you.
I have a comment.
But I just wanted to say that, I love the content, and I appreciate how it's positioned as what we as communicators can do, and how we as an association can help our members do their jobs better in this moment, because that's kind of it was a challenging moment for us at times as a chapter, when we were figuring out, when do we want to speak out on something? What is that message going to be? And you want to have that call to action. And here we can direct people to somewhere where there is a lot of content, We have to make sure that if we're speaking out on something that's happening, that it's in a way that is relative to our profession and to how we as an association help our members do their jobs better. And this makes it easier for us to do that because you have all of this wonderful stuff packaged together. So it sort of kind of like dropped out of the sky during a moment that we really needed it. So
Well, I appreciate
you guys worked really
that.
hard on it, but thank
Well,
you.
and I think what's interesting is that I say this a lot, our challenge is not to, what can we do? It's choosing what not to do. There is so much out there that we could do. And, we're a small but mighty band of volunteers, and we're always looking for more volunteers. I'll just throw that out there if anybody's interested. But that's how we're going to get these messages across. And to your point, it's not enough just to say, here's the content, but we really wanted to start packaging it up. Great content, what do you do with it? How do you move it forward? Or how are different ways that you can think about this and introduce this to your organization, your community, your nonprofits? How can you go about actually using this in real time? So we're continuing to augment pieces and grow that aspect. Very interested in feedback. If there's things that we're not doing that you're not seeing that you'd like us to address or look into, please reach out to us. Again, we're kind of practicing a little selective neglect to choose what we move forward first. We've got a lot of really just amazing things coming in the future. So there might be something that we've pegged farther on that we haven't shown everybody yet. But please give us that feedback, because that's really helpful for us of what you'd like to see. I think somebody else had a question.
I have a comment. This is Jeff Pizzino, living in Johnson City, Tennessee currently. I don't have the great accent here, so yes, I'm not a native. I really appreciate the efforts you're putting in. I think it's a daunting challenge, especially to remain nonpartisan. And I think there's a huge as well in agreeing what truth is. So I'm not sure how exactly you're going about that, because certainly people disagree what is truth and what isn't. And also I wanted to ask, is PRSA doing anything to combat the censorship by big tech companies, especially of conservative views?
So first of all, regarding truth, that's really why our approach is about building cognitive muscles. So we're not telling people, well, so for example, the whole psychological reason for the nudge is to not take action while you're kind of enraged or angry or passionate. Slow down, confirm the source. I mean, it's like when you walk in your house and you had a tough day and you reach for the bag of chips. If you just stop and think, maybe you won't eat those chips. Maybe I won't have that third glass of wine if I just, I'm aroused politically, I'm aroused psychologically, and that's when you're more likely to share disinformation, is when you're not being mindful. So that's really about with the nudge. And the games, for example, Spot the Troll literally shows you Russian trolls that the FBI caught, and you have to identify which ones are fake Russian trolls. And it's all political. The messaging is all over the board, and it's really difficult. And the lesson learned is, if you don't know who you're dealing with, don't share their content. I mean, so we're not evaluating what's true or not. What we're saying is, just be more mindful when you're online. Look both ways before you cross the road. It doesn't say which road to cross. We're not trying to police the information superhighway. We're just saying look both ways before you cross. And even the inoculation, it's really just to show the tactics used. We're not necessarily, and how people, I mean, there was an article in the New York Times a couple months ago that a lot of the people that were the biggest purveyors of what they even admit wasn't truthful, they just love being celebrities online. They love that. They love it. So understanding why people share disinformation, and they like the celebrity, they like the follows, the likes, they get it. It becomes intoxicating. Understanding that whole psychological soup will make you a better consumer of news. We're not trying to say what's right or wrong. Even the media literacy does not label information bad or good. It's really just about making better choices online. And regarding deplatforming, we really haven't taken a position on that. I mean, I think to your point, and I said this from the get-go, there's some real First Amendment issues on whether, and we have members who work for those organizations as well, and all over the board. So right now, most of our efforts have focused on just helping consumers of news and information just make better choices online. I mean, it's no different than food labeling. I mean, if you want to devour a bag of chips, fine, but you should know what's in that bag before you consume it, and then go right ahead. We're not saying don't consume a bag of chips, but just know what's in it. No, just be mindful. And that's all we're really trying to do. And by the way, all the data says in the long run, that's the most effective way to do it. My son years ago, was a middle schooler. Actually was just in high school. And, like every high school got caught doing stuff he wasn't going to do. And one of the parents was outraged. Who gave him that stuff? I said, listen, we're not going to stop our kids from seeing from someone trying to sell them pot or someone getting them booze. What we need to do is teach them to make better choices. And so, so understand the ramifications of their choices. And it's no different than we as adults and all consumers of news and information. We have to just make better choices and know that, if before we share, do I even know who that person is? And that's at the very core, that's what we're trying to do. So I just want to be super clear. We're not trying to be the information police. We're not trying to label good, bad, better decisions. And I think that's really an important distinction about what we're doing versus what a lot of other people are doing.
Yeah, and I would just add, this really is about collecting that brain trust. What's out there that's effective that people are doing from developing tools that can help us do this and moving that forward. And I did put in the chat, Jeff, have a fascinating conversation about what is truth with Emmanuel Shavidian. He and I served on the Board of Ethics for many years, a few years back. But he just spot on to your conversation or your comment about what is truth. I would reach out to him. I think he would enjoy the conversation very much. But again, to Mike's point, this initiative, all of these initiatives is about how can we better facilitate moving into these conversations. It's not about right or wrong. It's about how can we put tools in people's hands to help situations and bring these conversations into more productive spaces.
I mean, the civility pillar, at the end of the day, our goal is just people to be yielding to other points of view. It doesn't mean you have to completely embrace it. Doesn't mean you have to accept it, but just yield and ask, and be able to share space together. And I'm reading an interesting book, High Conflict, and I forget the author, but I recommend it. And it talks about that conflict is good, but high conflict is bad. And what's the difference, and how did we get to high conflict? And we've created an environment where every choice is binary, good or bad, and we're now points of view are now. I mean, everything's your identity is now tied into every issue. Instead of wrestling with issues, you now have to be your whole identity is attached to it, and it's a toxic soup. That we can change, and who better to change it than professional communicators? And I think this is really our calling. This is our role in society. And listen, media relations and publicity and all those things are kind of bread and butter issues and social media. But at the end of the day, this is the value I think we provide and the counsel we provide. And this is how we serve the C-suite, who are frankly very concerned about these issues. And there were people in their work environment being able to work collaboratively, even if they share different points of view. People being able to share spaces without, on airplanes or in retail establishments without yelling and screaming at each other. And just, this is where they want to focus their attention. And I think we're offering some great tools. So
I just added to the chat another book reference called Radical Inclusion. It's by the former Joint Chiefs of Staff, Martin Dempsey and Ori Brofman. So you have a longtime military, high-ranking official, and a pacifist who has written this book about how you bring these two very different points of view together and the need to do so. It's a great book.
Well, thank you for that. I think it'd be nice to see PRSA say, I haven't seen them say anything about the cancel culture, because I agree, we need more civility. We need tolerance. We need to be able to listen and understand. And this cancel culture is the antithesis of that. And why isn't PRSA saying anything about it unless I missed it.
Well, I think that is just, I can't speak for a national statement on the topic. That would be a question that you should pose to Tony D'Angelo, who is the chair of the advocacy committee this year. And I think it's a valid question. And I can guarantee you he will take that and have a vigorous debate with his team about, is this something that PRSA is going to recommend or not to take a position on. So I would definitely encourage you to do that.
And by the way, I think that cancel culture is a great, I mean, because it's impacted folks on both sides of the political spectrum. I mean, there are people that have been canceled from sports and from entertainment on both sides of those issues. We should be able to speak our mind, and we should be more yielding to other points of view. And I think just canceling people just because, now listen, obviously we've got to be mindful about, hate speech and threatening language and those issues that really undermine communication, but points of view should be welcome. And listen, we serve the marketplace of ideas, and that's really an opportunity. And frankly, that we can show even within our own PRSA that we may not all agree politically within PRSA, but we agree on these things, that we can be yielding to other points of view, that we're committed to truth. And listen, even in disinformation, sharing information, but are you willing to correct it if you find out it's wrong? And because we all may share something in error, but then are you willing to go back? And frankly, our code says we have to do that, but are you willing to do that? And a lot of people just aren't. They just, because they feel what they've shared, it's so attached to their identity. It's confirmed to conform with their beliefs, and it's a very toxic kind of a psychological soup out there right now. So, and I think we could be leaders in this space and helping people navigate it.
Well, and I can tell you that was part of the conversation when we were looking at, what do we really need to be addressing? And cancel culture was one of the catalysts for the civility discussion. Mm-hmm. That we need, as conveners of conversation, we have the ability to influence and bring that differing perspective together. We have that capacity in a very unique aspect, just by the very nature of what we do. And I would agree that, and I may have already said this, but the art of civil debate is a lost art. People no longer have the willingness to sit down and be open to listening to a differing point of view and respectfully countering or presenting their point of view, and then finding middle ground, which was the beauty of civil debate in the past. And we need to get back to that space, as Micah said, where as communicators, we not only have the ability to help facilitate situations like that and be the experts in how do we convene and bring that back into the realm, but we have a responsibility to do that as well. So that was one of the catalysts for that particular initiative. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. We'll keep working.
All right, are there any other questions for Nance and Mike before we close? Thank you all for being on the call. Nance and Mike, this was absolutely incredible, so informative, and I've been taking notes the whole time. So thank you so much for being with us today.
And we're here for all of your chapters. Feel free to invite us back or whatever you need, or even just get on a call with your leadership to brainstorm ideas. We're really here to serve you, and so just don't be bashful and reach back to us. So
I think we'll probably all be doing that.
Excellent. Thank you all very much for the time today.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.